protagonist, Shuji, often thought about the fact that he didn't have a family name, just Shuji. He was never addressed by his real name. As a child, people referred to him as trash. As he grew older, they started calling him weed and then bastard. When he entered adulthood, he began calling him the venomous snake spear and the spear demon. Eventually, he rose to the top, defeating everyone in his path, earning the grand title of Spear King. Despite his achievements, the only clothes he wore were ragged workout clothes, and his daily meal consisted of just one ration of potatoes. But that was enough. The only place he could truly call home was the battlefield. On the battlefield, he fought with such recklessness that people grew terrified of him, calling him a literal demon. Whispers spread. Was he the rumored Spear King, the one who had come to claim their lives? One leader of the enemy forces shouted at his troops, demanding to know why they were all so afraid of just one enemy. He insisted that they would win the moment they killed him and ordered them to charge. They all rushed at Shuji, spears in hand, but he leaped into action, plunging his spear straight into the enemy leader's head. The others continued to rush him, and he wondered, was this why he was born, or was it something he had learned to do? At last, he took countless lives with a single spear in hand, surviving through the day. But in the end, the grudges and resentment of the dead caught up with him. The one who had always been mocked as trash eventually perished on the battlefield. That was supposed to be the end, and he couldn't tell if it was an error or fate itself, but somehow he was reincarnated. He woke up as a young boy beneath a tree in a forest and quickly realized he hadn't been reincarnated as a baby. When he looked into a nearby mirror, he saw his own reflection and realized it was around the time he had still worked as a laborer. In the distance, he heard the sounds of bandits attacking a group of people. These people, fiercely guarding their goods, were determined not to let a single thing be taken. Shuji recognized them as the forest bandits who were opposed to the Howling Tiger Escort Bureau. And as if by fate, Shuji had stepped right back onto a battlefield. One of the bandits approached from behind, smashing the mirror and demanding to know what Shuji was doing there. The bandit didn't think Shuji was the escort master, but assumed he was just a laborer. Shuji thought to himself that these were nothing but scoundrels, cowards hiding in the forest to kill and rob. Despite his disdain, his eyes trembled and his body stiffened. He knew most of these bandits were nothing more than amateurs. The bandit shouted that it didn't matter whether Shuji was a laborer or an escort master. He was still part of the escort bureau, and he would kill every one of them. The bandit swung his spear at Shuji, but Shuji blocked the strike with his hand, calmly noting that the bandit's movements were entirely predictable. In an instant, Shuji grabbed the bandit's spear and used it to attack, stabbing the man through the chest. The bandit fell, shocked and defeated. Shuji remarked that, although he no longer had his war feats, his martial arts skills were still more than enough. His eyes glowed and a strange energy seemed to pulse within his body. He thought back to how others had despised the martial arts technique he used, calling it demonic, but in this moment he had no choice but to rely on it. With the spear still in hand, the one he had used to stab the bandit, Shuji turned, prepared for whatever would come next. As he stood there, deep in thought, he was ambushed by an archer bandit who shot an arrow toward him. The bandit believed the arrow would surely strike, but Shuji, anticipating the ambush, blocked it by using the body of the fallen bandit as a shield. He muttered to himself that if the bandit had only confirmed his enemy was truly dead, he might have avoided this fate. With swift precision, Shuji stabbed the archer bandit and hung both of their bodies from the spear. He sighed, noting that now the weight of the spear felt just right. Shuji reminisced about the good old days, thinking back to the Howling Tiger Escort Bureau. He stepped into the midst of the bandits, two of their comrades impaled on his spear, and his mere presence struck fear into their hearts. The leader of the forest bandits approached, demanding Shuji to stand still. Shuji smiled and replied that he was actually looking for the leader himself. The bandit leader growled, vowing to wipe that smile off Shuji's face. Without hesitation, he threw a weapon at Shuji, but it was easily dodged. Shuji glanced at the two dead bandits impaled on his spear, who, in their final moments, had acknowledged his strength, but that was all they had to offer. In one swift motion, Shuji cleaved the leader in half, saying calmly that it's what's called an attack. The remaining bandits stood in stunned silence. They couldn't believe their leader had been taken down with a single strike. To them, Shuji seemed like a monster. Shuji, feeling a strange lightness in his hand, wondered why his spear felt so different. Without a second thought, he drove the spear into the leader's neck, lifting the body high to terrify the remaining bandits. Panic set in as they began to flee in all directions. Shuji recognized them now. Their banner marked them as the tri-colored Dangmo Mountain Bandits. A thought crossed his mind. When blood and demons meet on the battlefield, time seems to rewind. 10 years had passed, but on that very mountain, the spear demon had returned. Night fell over the battlefield where the Howling Tiger Escort Bureau clashed with the bandits. A man from the Escort Bureau shouted, urging his comrades not to let a single bandit escape. Shuji stood calmly observing the scene. Behind him lay 3 dead bodies, their spirits glowing red as if fueling the Bureau's resolve. The escort members understood the wind was in their favor. They wouldn't let any bandits live. Suddenly, a bandit slashed down a man, shouting that who did those brats think they are, killing us? If they want to fight, then bring it on. The ghosts of the three fallen bandits lingering around Shuji's spear whispered that their former boss, Igo, had joined the fight on their side. Shuji realized Igo must be their stronghold leader, cut above the common rabble. He was instructed to take Igo down himself. Shuji agrees, saying that it's fine and he will grant that wish. Igo will be devoured whole. Igo charged, slashing fiercely at the escort members, but Shuji calmly called his name. Angered and confused, Igo demanded to know who dared call him by his name. Without hesitation, Shuji slashed at Igo. The blow was unstoppable, forcing Igo to fall back, bewildered, wondering who Shuji really was. Holding the three corpses on his spear, Shuji approached Igo, who was shocked and called Shuji a madman for hanging off a spear like that. The three spirits wondered why Igo was the only one left and why he hadn't joined them already. Igo began crying, terrified, calling Shuji a demon and screaming for help. Enraged, a red aura flared behind Shuji as he slashed Igo down. He thought to himself that calling a name 3 times might just send a soul to the underworld. Shuji explained that when a name was called 3 times, the target was sent to the afterlife. It's been a while since he used that. His mind drifted back to his past life when he was a young man struggling to climb a mountain. He struggled so much, feeling that because he was a rookie, all the tough scouting assignments were dumped on him. At one point, he took a rest, frustrated with the military. He thought if only he joined the army properly, he wouldn't starve. But it felt no different from being a slave. Suddenly, red eyes opened behind him, sending a chill down his spine. He didn't know if it was a tiger or a ghost, but it didn't matter. He knew he must not look back. Some things were not meant to be seen. He vowed that he won't die here for nothing and dared not turn around. A voice asked him what he hoped to achieve by struggling so hard, and his life was no better than a bug's. Why not take a gamble? That might be his only chance to change his pathetic fate. Shuji turned around and asked how he was supposed to trust words like that. The man remarked that Shuji had a lot of guts and then asked for his name. Shuji told him, but the man's eyes suddenly turned red as he questioned what did he said. Shuji repeated his name, but the man insisted he would ask again. Just as Shuji prepared to answer a 3rd time, the man grabbed his neck before he could speak. Shuji realized that in a single breath, the man had covered the entire distance without him seeing a move. He recognized the man as his master, the one who had bestowed him with demonic power. The man explained that if there was someone Shuji wanted to kill, he should say their name 3 times, and regardless of the answer, he would be able to kill anyone. Shuji thought of the embodiment of evil in the martial world, the blood demon Kokufu. Shaking off the thought, Shuji resumed slashing at the bandits. When more bandits came at him, calling him a monster, Shuji found it strangely clear-headed. The demonic power Kokufu had given him felt incomplete. As he fought, he realized that the seed of that power, rooted in his danshin, was supposed to seep into his bones and cloud his mind, but instead he felt refreshed. He wondered what had changed. He used the power to make a purple glow radiate from his body and realized the difference from when he had gained demonic power in his past life. Back then, he had forgotten all about it after joining the army. But as a kid, he had learned the Miao tribe's breathing technique. Shuji explained that this technique helped him preserve his consciousness and maintain mental clarity. A strange coincidence. He recalled his master's words. Until Shuji completely mastered that demonic power, he wouldn't be able to hold onto his sanity. Shuji wondered what kind of expression Kokufu would make if he found out about this. Just then, people from the bureau called him over and showed their gratitude for saving them from danger. One girl said she knew Shuji had been standing there, but the overwhelming pressure he gave off as he cut down those bandits one by one made it impossible for her to let him go. Shuji asked what she meant. She replied that she didn't understand why someone like him was working as a convoy hand in the enforcement bureau, but if it wasn't too rude to ask, would he be willing to keep lending them his strength? Shuji simply refused, which shocked her. Turning to leave, he told her that if she had no other business, he was going. She was shocked, thinking about how she couldn't just let him walk away. Since he wouldn't join them, she knelt and offered him an object, asking him to take it. She explained that Shuji might already know this, but the Tiger Pit sect ran the enforcement bureau. It was a prestigious sect based in Anhui. If Shuji took that token to the Tiger Pit sect, he would be welcome as an honored guest. She asked him to accept it as a sign of her sincerity. Shuji accepted the token, recalling that the Tiger Pit sect was known for their honest and upright operations, but within a few years they had vanished without a trace. As he took it, she thanked him and bowed, saying they would return to their transport duties for now, but once finished, they would come back to greet him again and asked him to enjoy his stay in the meantime. Shuji also took a horse from there. The girl stopped him from taking one particular horse, saying its temperament was far too wild, so they decided to use it for hauling cargo instead. Shuji mounted the horse and headed out. A man remarked that the horse was somehow totally obedient now. They all just saw the horse pee and were surprised by it. The girl commented that at his age, Shuji had horseback skills as well. He was like a monster. A man from behind wondered if it could be love at first sight. Shuji was exactly their type, strong and handsome, just what they liked. The girl drew her sword and said it was rude to speak that way about their benefactor, asking if he was trying to get himself killed. Shuji denied it, saying he was only joking and apologized. She lowered her sword and said that although they hadn't seen it clearly, she had observed Shuji's spear technique. A boy guessed that maybe Shuji was the son of a famous noble family known for spear mastery. She shook her head and explained that it wasn't a martial arts style but a military spear technique, one that showed a level of mastery and insight far beyond Shuji's age. The boy guessed something and the girl agreed, saying it was most likely that Shuji came from a powerful military family and was on a warrior's journey. After completing his training and given his personality and willingness to risk his life to save them, if Shuji learned about the crisis facing the Tiger Pit sect, there was no way he would ignore it. She thought about how Shuji might save the Tiger Pit sect from the clutches of the Black Dao sect. As the horse peed again, Shuji shouted that if it peed once more, he would cut it so badly it wouldn't piss ever again. His thoughts returned to the Tiger Pit sect, wondering if they were still around and how they were doing. He then remembered Aiku, the one Shuji met after enlisting in the army, and the only person with whom he had formed a bond in his past life. At the military rest area, a man kicked Shuji, wondering if he thought a rookie like him could eat without first offering tribute. Shuji replied that it was the first time he had heard of such a rule. The man explained that new recruits were supposed to offer their dinner to their seniors, and unless they wanted a beating, they should remember that well. Others laughed at that moment. Just then, Aiku arrived carrying a potato and called the order ridiculous. He said that since Shuji had just arrived, he was the newest person, so why wouldn't they take his ration as well? The man grew angry, saying that Aiku really had some nerve and that he would smash the rotten face off him. Aiku threw the potato, hitting the man's face, and told him to just use it to fill his stomach if he still had any teeth left. Then, Aiku punched him several times. The man's face was badly injured and Aiku told him it seemed like he hadn't had enough potatoes yet, daring him to come back if he wanted more, promising to knock out every last one of his teeth. Others then left and Shuji told Aiku that he shouldn't have interfered. Aiku threw the half-eaten potato towards Shuji and replied that if Shuji wanted to eat, he'd better eat it. Aiku introduced himself as Shuji's direct senior. Shuji felt that Aiku was not just a comrade but like a sworn brother. Aiku then asked Shuji for his name. Shuji told him. One day, as they struggled desperately to survive, a blood demon named Kokufu appeared. Shuji was grabbed by his master and taken to a place like a sheep being led to slaughter. Aiku, standing some distance away, warned the man to leave Shuji alone or he would shoot a flare. Shuji denied this and told Aiku to run away instead. Aiku angrily insisted that the man leave Shuji. The man complied and Shuji fell into a trench, leaving Aiku shocked. The man smiled and asked what was wrong, saying he had what Aiku wanted. Aiku attacked him, but Shuji stopped him, explaining he hadn't fallen but was hanging there and was fine. He told Aiku not to worry and to get out of there quickly. The man said he didn't intend to kill them and asked them to listen as he had a proposal for both of them. He explained that if they brought him and the woman who could heal his internal wounds in return, he would grant them the strength to survive, whatever they desired. The two looked at each other, and since they had no other choice, they accepted. Shuji then stood up, and the man remarked that they truly had a fierce look in their eyes. He explained that there were beings known as the unrestrained demons, souls of humans devoured by tigers who fell into demonic corruption. These corrupted souls became subordinates, offering other souls to elevate their master's spiritual rank. He added that the mourning technique device worked on the same principle, absorbing the grudges of the dead to raise one's spiritual rank. This technique was called the art of the unrestrained demon. The magic had 3 stages: comprehension, tempering, and transcendence, each with 10 levels. Upon reaching the comprehension stage, practitioners could emit demonic energy like steam. At the tempering stage, their blood transformed into deadly poison, and when they released demonic energy, it looked as though blood was spurting out. The next step was to advance to the transcendent stage. The man had transcended the world, ascending 4 levels within that stage. In doing so, concepts like good, evil, and even the demonic lost all meaning to him. He thus engraved his teachings into their hearts, to go to the battlefield and slaughter without end. That was how they would gain the power to change their destiny. Both Shuji and Aiku progressed as he instructed, though they were constantly surrounded by countless enemies. Yet they held so much confidence that they would survive no matter what. They remembered the man's words. It would be their final deal. The herb they needed to fetch was the 100-year snow ginseng. But could they accomplish this? Shuji agreed at once, but Aiku asked them to wait. He explained that the 100-year snow ginseng was beyond their current capabilities. Before attempting to obtain it, could the man help them open their Ren and Du meridians? If the man could use the herb, they already had to open those meridians. They would then only need to find the final ingredient. Any missing herbs could be gathered and replenished later. The man agreed, and Aiku told Shuji to go first. Shuji was surprised and hesitant, but Aiku urged him to just listen and open his meridians first. While Shuji did so, Aiku would gather more herbs and open his own meridians. At that time, Shuji would collect the rest of the herbs. Aiku added that going second was the harder job. Shuji agreed, and after collecting the herbs, he returned only to find himself stabbed by several arrows and heavily injured. Despite his wounds, he held on to the hope that since he had gathered all the herbs, everything would be fine. But then he was shocked to see the head of the man lying severed and Aiku sitting nearby, injured as well. Aiku greeted him, saying, "Finally, Shuji showed up." Shuji rushed to check on Aiku and asked what had happened. Aiku told him not to make a fuss and that Shuji already knew Kokufu never intended to let them live in the first place. They had to fight harder before they could be killed. Shuji asked if that was why Aiku hadn't gone first and had let Shuji go instead. Aiku explained that all his meridian points had been destroyed, his demonic energy completely gone, and that Kokufu had planned a mutual kill from the start. As Shuji began to cry, Aiku told him not to. Killing a half-dead old man was nothing. Then he asked if Shuji knew why he had let him live. Shuji wondered how he could possibly know. Aiku replied that it was because Shuji was a warrior of the Tiger Enforcement Bureau, and then revealed that he himself was the last surviving member of the destroyed Tiger Pit sect. Shuji once said that he had worked as a warrior in the Tiger Enforcement Bureau for a short time and even added that the head and the lady of the Tiger Pit sect were good people. Hearing this, Aiku thought that was when he began to consider Shuji as family. Shuji was the only one who ever spoke fondly of his parents. Aiku was truly glad to have met Shuji and told him that if he ever got the chance, he should avenge him. Shuji stopped to reflect on how strong his past life had been, remembering riding a horse through a market. He thought that in this life, he would make sure that such grudges never existed in the first place. His first priority was to prevent the destruction of the Hu clan. Earlier, he had saved the Tiger Enforcement Bureau and their financial support, so maybe the future was already beginning to change. But that was not enough. He arrived at a place, dismounted his horse, and called out to a man. The man seemed arrogant and asked what Shuji wanted. Shuji replied that he had a question. The man struck Shuji on the head and warned him not to screw with him, asking who Shuji thought he was to speak to him like that. The man boasted that someone like Shuji was nothing, but Shuji grabbed the man's head firmly and told him to shut up and only answer his question. The man flinched and Shuji asked if that small manor over there was the Tiger Pit sect. The man immediately knelt down and confirmed it was. Shuji then asked if the sect leader was Kojanin and his wife was Shigein. The man confirmed this. Shuji then inquired if their son was Ko-Aiku. The man replied that this was false. Shuji asked again if it wasn't Ko-Aiku. The man confirmed but hesitated. As the man hesitated, Shuji began to doubt his own thoughts. He felt as though something from the past had shifted reality, something he already knew, but it couldn't be. He had checked everything else and all the details matched up with his previous life, so why wasn't it adding up? In a burst of frustration, he grabbed the man's collar, demanding that he tell the truth. Shuji warned that if he went to the Tiger Pit sect and found someone named Ko-Aiku there, he would beat the man. The man responded that they were indeed there. Shuji was confused and reminded him that it wasn't what the man had said earlier. The man clarified, explaining that Shuji had asked if the sect leader's son was named Ko-Aiku. He then questioned why Shuji would think that a young lady would be turned into a man before even being married. The man further explained that the Tiger Pit sect only had a daughter, not a son, and that Ko-Aiku was actually a woman. Shuji was stunned by this revelation. He was completely confused, thinking that if he showed the gold token, he could enter the Tiger Pit sect and confirm everything for himself. However, he realized that doing so might interfere with his future plans, so he wondered if there might be another way. Just then, a door opened in front of him and an angry man stepped out. Upon seeing Shuji, the man remarked that Shuji showed up as if it was nothing, and that's why they couldn't trust a homeless brat with a job. He grabbed Shuji by the collar, angrily stating that he had asked Shuji to clean the horse manure, but the boy had run off instead. The man then dragged Shuji inside, demanding to know where the others were. Shuji didn't respond, though he wondered if being homeless was the source of the misunderstanding. It actually worked out quite well, though. Shuji was taken into the stable, where the man introduced himself as Wu Tian, the manager of the Great Tiger Pit sect stables. He explained that all Shuji had to do was take care of the manure and feed the animals, still better than living on the streets. Wu Tian went on to explain that he had explained everything 2 days ago, so Shuji should have remembered. However, when Shuji admitted he didn't recall, the man was shocked. He looked Shuji up and down, accusing him not only of having poor memory but also of talking back to his elders. He wondered if Shuji had been eating scraps, sleeping in the stables, and had forgotten all of that. They were people the sect never needed in the first place, but the sect leader had taken pity on Shuji, a homeless child, and allowed him to stay. He asked Shuji not to run away because it would be difficult, urging him to just do his job properly. Did he understand? Suddenly, a horse rushed over and struck Tian's leg. Tian screamed in pain, but the horse continued to attack him. Shuji wondered why the horse had suddenly started hitting him and where it had come from. From the Zhao clan manor, Zhao and his guards saw the scene unfold. Zhao remarked that it was no surprise the horse was acting like that. It was a top-grade horse, and he had paid enough for it to buy a mansion. Even with such a high price, it was still a wild one, difficult to handle. His guard observed that one of the stable boys seemed to be injured. Zhao casually replied that those men were no more than dogs to them and suggested tossing them some feed on their way out. One of the workers in the stable realized that the man was Zhao from the Zhao clan manor. Another man wondered what Zhao was doing there. Shuji, thinking back to his past life, recalled hearing about Zhao from Aiku. Zhao had been the mastermind behind the downfall of the Tiger Pit sect. He had also spread a strong, terrible rumor, and Shuji decided it was best to get inside quickly. Zhao, meanwhile, grumbled that being seen by such people felt like his clothes had become dirty. He had heard they had new guests at the sect and had rushed over to check, but he hadn't expected to find them here. He was greeted by Ko Jinin, the leader of the Tiger Pit sect. Zhao and his bodyguard showed respect to Jinin, with Zhao referring to him as his father-in-law. He explained that there was only one reason he would come to the Tiger Pit sect. It was obvious: his future bride. Jinin replied that if Zhao was talking about Aiku, then he had no recollection of approving such a marriage. Zhao acknowledged that it might be true, but he intended to hold the wedding when Aiku turned 16. Jinin, growing angry, listened as Zhao continued, saying the wedding between him and Aiku was already planned for a year from now, and it was the talk of the region. Even the village children were singing songs to celebrate. Jinin, fuming, wondered if Zhao had been the one to spread the rumors, attempting to ruin Aiku's future. Zhao acted as if he didn't, laughing and complimenting Jinin's jokes. He remarked that the Zhao clan was far inferior to the Ko clan, and if Jinin thought they would go to such lengths just to marry the daughter of the Tiger Pit sect, it was laughable. Jinin's anger flared at Zhao's words. Just then, Aiku arrived, and after hearing the exchange, she spoke up. She told Zhao that if that was the case, there would be no engagement between their families, and he should stop concerning himself with her and seek another woman. Zhao, surprised, asked if she understood how dangerous rumors like this could be. Aiku replied that there was no point in discussing the future, and that she had no intention of marrying him or anyone from the Zhao clan manor. She asked him to leave. Zhao sneered, saying she was acting all high and mighty. Even though her sect was nearly bankrupt, yet still as arrogant as ever. His guard asked what they should do. Zhao responded that they had only stopped by on the way to the brothel anyway, so they should leave now. As they were leaving, Zhao mentioned the rumors once more. His guard added that Aiku was even more beautiful than the rumors had claimed. Zhao asked if his guard now understood why he was so obsessed with her. With such beauty, people said she was a woman whose beauty could topple a nation. The guard agreed, saying it wasn't even an exaggeration. Zhao went on to say that a beautiful woman with no power or money was doomed to a tragic fate. She was far too beautiful to be the daughter of the Tiger Pit sect, and she could only curse her misfortune for being born there. But Zhao added it was already too late. He, a wicked man, had set his eyes on her. The two of them laughed as they walked away. Zhao sat on the horse and tried to move it, but it didn't budge. He and his guard wondered what had happened. One of the men reached out to touch the horse, wondering if it was sick or something. Suddenly, the horse collapsed, throwing the man off in the process. Zhao, irritated, wondered where the stable boys were. Meanwhile, Shuji was hiding nearby, holding the horse's liver in his hands, having used the art of the vixen skillfully. He thought to himself that it was pointless to take the liver without leaving a mark. They would never know why the horse had died. But it was all Zhao's fault. He was the real cause of everything. Aiku had once told him that the downfall of the Tiger Pit sect had been a result of a power struggle with the Zhao clan manor. Yet Zhao had been pulling the strings from the shadows. Shuji realized that if Aiku had known this, it was exactly why she had seen her own beauty as a curse. Furious, Shuji crushed the liver with a punch and thought to himself that now he understood why Aiku had burned her own face with fire. There was no need to avenge her anymore. He rushed off, determined to take action from that moment forward. That night in the Anhui province, Neimatsu Prefecture, Shuji was walking outside when he overheard people inside preparing for dinner. As one man got drunk, his wife grew angry and demanded that he leave. The man, intoxicated, shouted back at her, questioning how she dare speak to him like that. Shuji arrived in front of a shop that sold farming tools. It had been a while since he had been there. He entered, and a man sitting inside and drinking asked who Shuji was. As Shuji introduced himself, the man casually replied that he didn't know anyone by that name. The man, who had one leg cut off, mentioned that he was already retired and told Shuji to go somewhere else. Shuji, undeterred, sat down and said he knew who the man was. He then asked the man to make him a hammer. The man, still drinking, asked if Shuji was serious. Shuji replied, specifying that he wanted the hammer to be 17 sun long, 4 sun in circumference, with a spherical head, and the weight should be under 10 jin. The man stopped drinking and, growing more serious, said that with such a design, Shuji wouldn't be able to drive a nail. Shuji calmly responded that he wasn't using the hammer to drive nails. The man, curious, asked if there was anything else. Shuji then requested 2 additional items, each 18.5 sun long, made with crocodile leather, and wanted them to be properly forged weapons, heavy and durable. The man asked if Shuji wanted a sword, spear, or axe. Shuji responded, saying he wanted a spear. The man, now fully focused, grabbed a stick and struck Shuji's side, showing him the best weapon he could provide. He explained that it would take a day to sharpen the blade. Shuji nodded and said that was fine. Then he asked if the man had any small, sharp weapons. The man agreed and with a grunt hit the box Shuji was sitting on. The box opened to reveal iron thorn spikes. Shuji decided to take them all. The man calmly asked where he should deliver all the items, but Shuji replied that he would come to pick them up himself. The man finally remarked that Shuji seemed all fired up, but all that gear would cost him. Shuji simply asked the man to tell him the price. The man fell silent for a moment, then said that 3 days ago his daughter died, so was there any way to bring her back? His hands trembled as they rested on Shuji's shoulders. When Shuji didn't respond, the man withdrew, telling him that Shuji reeked of blood, and for a moment he had thought Shuji was a ghost. But the man realized he was wrong. He then asked if Shuji would kill the one who had killed his daughter, right there in his place. Shuji stood up and asked who had killed his daughter. The man mentioned the Black Tao sect. Shuji, without hesitation, agreed and began to turn to leave. The man added that there were 4 of them in this sect, known as the Black Tao sect, and urged Shuji to hear him out. Shuji, filled with rage, interrupted, saying there was no need to even hear the name of his enemy. He declared that all of them would die at his hands. Shuji reached the door and asked the man for work clothes and poison. The man was shocked and questioned whether Shuji really thought a blacksmith would sell such things. Instead, he threw a covered pot and a cloth towards Shuji, saying that the bear hide had belonged to a man who had killed 74 people and that the jar contained deadly poison from the Miao tribe, although he had never checked to confirm its authenticity. Shuji opened the jar to inspect it and quickly realized that it was not what the man claimed. He told the man that he had been conned. The man agreed, admitting that it was likely a scam. Despite this, Shuji still decided to take it, suggesting that while it might not be genuine Miao poison, it could still be useful. He said he would return the next day to pick up the items he had ordered. As Shuji noticed some bones nearby, he asked about them. The man replied that he used them when putting down livestock and asked if there was a problem. Shuji casually reassured him that it wasn't an issue and said he could borrow the bones until his order was ready. With that, Shuji left and the man, feeling a sense of unease, wondered if Shuji might actually be a ghost. However, he quickly dismissed the thought, telling himself that as long as he could avenge his daughter, his life was a small price to pay. The scene shifts to the Black Tao sect's main gate, where 3 guards were on duty. They sensed something approaching, and then Shuji appeared. The guards wondered who he was, and one of them told the others that they were in the middle of an important meeting, and that no one could enter without an entry pass. The guard then asked what was in Shuji's hand, commenting that it smelled awful, and ordered him to leave. Shuji ignored the command and continued advancing, striking one of the guards dead. The others were shocked, both by the sudden attack and by the eerie aura surrounding Shuji. They stared at the item in his hand, and one of them recognized it as a horsebone. Shuji calmly mentioned that it could still be useful, then added that he remembered how the Black Tao sect had allowed more than half of their forces to escape during the battle before the regression. Their counterattack afterward had cost them many lives, but thanks to that, he knew exactly how the enemy leader would flee. Now he was determined to hunt down every last one of them. Shuji continued his assault, killing the guards one by one. The noise attracted the attention of others inside the sect, who came out to investigate. One of them asked if Shuji was the one causing all the commotion. Another man, who had been enjoying a nice nap, cursed as his rest was ruined. Someone mentioned that the sect leader was currently in a meeting with a guest and would handle the situation swiftly. Shuji assessed the 4 people around him, recognizing them as being somewhere between second- and third-rate fighters. It quickly became clear that these were the elites of the Black Tao sect. As one of the men lunged to strike Shuji, he punched him so hard that tears sprang from his eyes and the man screamed in pain. Another guard drew his sword, but Shuji rushed forward, striking him in the eyes before charging at the other 2. He threw the horse bone, hitting one man in the face, and to his surprise, the bone flew back into his hand. Without hesitation, Shuji attacked the man whose eyes he had just struck, and the man collapsed. The first man, enraged, charged at Shuji, vowing to make him suffer the same fate. Shuji stepped back with a smirk, saying that it's funny that they had always taken from others, but now that he was the one being robbed, it hurts. A pot was placed near Shuji's side, and he kicked it toward the man, sending fragments flying toward his face. The man's eyes were struck, and as he instinctively covered them, Shuji approached, hitting him with the bone, saying he was getting all worked up over this, but he was not here to take their stuff, and he was there to steal their souls. A new figure appeared, shocked by the scene before him. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Even in the Black Tao sect, no one fought with such viciousness, and to charge and wielding a horse bone as a weapon, Shuji was like a monster. Shuji's clothes were completely soaked in blood as he approached the man. The sight of him caused the man to panic, and he quickly drew his sword. But as Shuji stared at him, the man felt an unsettling chill. Without warning, Shuji landed a powerful blow, sending the man crashing into the wall, breaking it apart as he fell to the ground. The man gasped, struggling to ask who Shuji was and who had sent him. Shuji calmly replied to the blacksmith. The man was taken aback by this revelation. Before he could react, Shuji struck him again, killing him instantly. Shuji stood over him and remarked that he ought taken care of the 4 elites of the Black Tao sect. That should be enough to cover the payment. With that, he turned and left. At night, in a room, the Black Tao sect leader, Hu Yuho, was speaking with a man and learned that the mission had failed. The man informed him that both the master and the young master were curious about the outcome. He continues, saying that if Yu Hao had successfully disguised the Black Dao sect as forest bandits and carried out the attack on the Tiger Enforcement Bureau, he could have seized both the stolen cargo and the Zhao clan's reward money. However, the plan had been botched. Yu Hao, clearly angered, listened as the man explained that the ambush had failed, resulting in the loss of men. Now they were unable to pay their tribute to the evil alliance. The man also expressed concern over the possibility of the demon collector showing up. Frustrated, Yu Hao slammed his fist on the table, realizing the situation had spiraled out of control. They had sent enough men to take down the Tiger Enforcement Bureau, but no one had returned alive. They had no idea what had happened. The man suggested that one of the 4 Black Dao elites should have been sent from the start. Yu Hao acknowledged the point, stating that he hadn't anticipated things would escalate to this level. If the man had warned them earlier about the strength of the Tiger Pit Sect's guards, they wouldn't have found themselves in such a mess. The man turned to him and asked if he was saying this was his fault. He slammed his hand on the table, angered, making one thing clear. If Yu Hao screwed up again, they were all dead. Do you understand that? Yu Hao, grabbing his head in frustration, agreed. The man continued, saying that unless the Tiger Enforcement Bureau failed their transport job, the Tiger Pit sect wouldn't be concerned. The young master's marriage plan wouldn't move forward, and that brat wouldn't rest until he had that girl. Yu Hao shouted that he understood and that it was enough. Just then, they heard a sound. The man tensed, and Yu Hao wondered what it was, especially since the 4 elites should have been guarding the entrance. They saw a shadow outside the door. The door opened, and the heads of the 4 elites were visible. It was Shuji. The man panicked, thinking that if the Orthodox sect had sent a master, the 4 elites were already dead. As Shuji entered, the man quickly said that he was from the Zhao clan and had nothing to do with the Black Dao. He had only come to negotiate, but Shuji didn't seem in the mood to listen. The man continued, judging by the scene, he was there to wipe us all out, so he was offering my help. Shuji, however, smeared some red liquid onto the man's eyes. The man winced in pain, wondering what it was and what Shuji was doing. Even as the man reiterated that he was from the Zhao clan and not part of the Black Dao, his eyes were burning with pain. Shuji recalled the words of his master. Those skilled in the supreme demonic arts were known as demon breakers, and the blood of a demon breaker was a deadly poison to martial artists. Shuji thought to himself that while it wasn't as lethal as the true demon breaker's poison, it would still feel like being hit with chili powder, painful and irritating. The man, enraged, slashed his sword at Shuji, demanding to know what was wrong with him. Shuji easily dodged the strike, noting that the man's martial prowess was impressive, though not on the level of the 4 elites. With that, Shuji decided to unleash his own power. Both the man and Yu Hao were shocked as they realized that Shuji was using the demonic arts. Shuji was surrounded by a dark, menacing aura. The man, now realizing that Shuji was not from the Orthodox sect, but a mad demon, rushed at him in a frantic attempt to attack. Shuji swiftly dodged the man's strike and retaliated, knocking him to the ground. The man recoiled in fear as Shuji advanced toward him. Without hesitation, Shuji struck the man with his bone, smashing it into his face. Blood splattered everywhere. Yu Hao, standing back, pondered the situation. He understood now that the ideological and ethical divide between the Orthodox and unorthodox sects had transcended. Shuji, a figure of evil incarnate, was one of the monsters that martial artists everywhere would have to destroy. And now one of these monsters had appeared in the Black Dao sect. He knew that demon users were like savage beasts until they reached a certain realm, with only slaughter in their hearts. As he approached the hidden gate, he thought that while Shuji was distracted by the other man, he could slip away and contact the evil alliance. If that failed, perhaps he could reach out to the martial alliance. Just as he was about to leave, Shuji called his name, wondering if it was really him. Yu Hao froze, shocked that Shuji still had his sanity. Even after mastering the demonic arts, he was still the same as before, a peak stage master controlling his demonic energy. Yu Hao, trembling, knelt before Shuji and begged for forgiveness. He promised that if Shuji spared him, he would do anything. He explained that it was the last day to pay tribute to the evil alliance, and if anything went wrong, he would lose his head. Then, addressing Shuji as noble, he added that perhaps Shuji was also unconvinced. Shuji realized that Yu Hao was more aware of the situation than he had expected. He then asked Yu Hao to give up his martial arts. Yu Hao, taken aback, was shocked to hear this. Shuji warned him that if he refused, he would be killed. Yu Hao, considering the offer, thought that giving up his martial arts would be like losing everything. He decided that if he had to, he would at least strike back at Shuji. With a burst of energy, he rushed to attack Shuji. Shuji calmly replied that he knew Yu Hao was a coward, someone who only talked big. He struck Yu Hao's side with his bone, knocking him back. Yu Hao jumped to dodge, sneering he was not a peak stage monster at all, and he was just a second-rate warrior. How bold of him to trick him. Shuji called him a clown, adding that it made his job easier. It's time to purge the Black Dao, he said with cold finality. Yu Hao felt something uneven and wondered if Shuji had done something with his last strike. Shuji mentioned that he should thank Yu Hao. Normally, he would have been a real pain to deal with, but Yu Hao had misunderstood things on his own, which made everything a lot easier. The Red Souls reached Yuhao, urging him to let's die together. Yuhao slashed at Shuji several times, but Shuji dodged each one before landing a strike with a bone to hit him. Yuhao then used his sword to strike Shuji, but Shuji evaded that as well. Yuhao marveled at his movements, thinking that despite their wild nature, they were disciplined like those of an assassin, yet with the poise of a true warrior. His movements were unpredictable, designed to kill the enemy in any situation, making him seem like a demon on the battlefield. Shuji rushed forward to strike Yuhao with a bone, causing him to stagger back in pain. Yuhao screamed as Shuji spoke, accusing Yuhao of kidnapping common women, selling them to brothels, and extorting money from them to build the Black Dao sect. Shuji also revealed that Yuhao had borrowed a significant amount of debt from the Tiger Enforcement Bureau. Yuhao, acknowledging his wrongdoings, called Shuji a mighty warrior. He begged for mercy, swearing he would never repeat his actions if Shuji spared him. Shuji, still deep in thought, wondered how many others were involved in such schemes. Yuhao, confused, asked that what do you mean by that? Shuji asked how many people had begged for their lives in front of him like that. He was holding a fire stick, which he was preparing to use on Yuhao. Yuhao pleaded, saying he would do anything to be spared. Shuji set Yuhao on fire, commenting that it should help ease the regrets of the Tiger Enforcement Bureau a little. Yuhao was shocked, wondering if Shuji was the true source of the recent troubles. As he burned, Shuji's aura radiated around him, and he remarked that the leader of the Black Dao sect might actually be worth something. He heard that others were coming and that their sauce house was getting involved. He wondered who they were as they all rushed forward to attack, intent on killing him. Shuji calmly stated that it seems like it's going to be a long night. The next morning, rumors were spreading. One man mentioned hearing it from someone who used to work for the Black Dao. Taiyan told two people that the entire Black Dao sect had been wiped out the previous night and their estate had been burned to the ground. The two people were shocked by the news, and Taiyan added that the Tiger Pit sect had suffered greatly because of the Black Dao as well. They were even more surprised to hear this. Taiyan then explained ominously that the Black Dao had apparently bought the Tiger Pit sect's debt from the Qianzhuan, and they would show up from time to time, stirring up trouble. However, thanks to that, those debts were now worthless, and the Tiger Pit sect had come out ahead. It was amazing, and Yuhao wondered who the warrior was who had taken them all down. That person was the real hero of Anhui province. Taiyan called out to Shuji, who was sleeping nearby, asking if he was done cleaning the horse manure yet. Shuji woke up and Taiyan came over, noticing the look on his face and asking if he had a problem. Shuji thought it was a pain. He considered flashing his gold token, but decided against it, preferring to stay low until things settled with the Zhao clan. Taiyan shouted that he had enough for Shuji, would be the one to listen to him for a change. Just then, someone called out to them both. Taiyan's attention was caught by the voice. The person approached and said that he shouldn't pick on the new guy, and they were too familiar with the traditions, but the new recruits deserved some consideration. It was Aiku who asked if everything was alright. Taiyan replied, saying it wasn't like that. Shuji just won't listen to anything he explained. Aiku smiled, commenting that Shuji was still just a kid. It's probably his first time doing this kind of work, so they need to be patient and teach him, she advised. Taiyan responded that Shuji was just some drifter and would be gone soon anyway. Aiku gently disagreed, saying that others believe even the brush of a sleeve was a sign of fate. That's why we need to treasure every connection. Life was unpredictable, she added. Shuji, overhearing the conversation, was reminded of a time when Aiku had acted like a boy in the past. He told her maybe we'll run into each other again in some far-off place. Who knows? We could even become family. Taiyan thought it was unlikely that he would ever meet Shuji again. Another boy wondered about the far-off place deep in Anhui province, who even lives there anyway. Aiku asked Shuji if he was new to the area. He felt a bit uneasy, and she reassured him, saying that if anyone bullied him again, he should come to tell her. Shuji thought her face and voice were different from what he remembered, but her eyes, those clear, familiar eyes, were exactly the same as they had been back then. She hadn't changed at all. He replied with the same offer, telling her that if anyone tried to bully her, she should just come to him. Aiku looked confused and slightly shocked, and Taiyan wondered how Shuji had the nerve to speak to a young lady like that. Aiku smiled, agreeing with Shuji before leaving. That night, as everyone else fell asleep, Shuji quietly prepared his equipment. He muttered to himself that he had avenged the escrow warriors and the shopkeeper. Now it was time to go after Aiku's killer. The scene shifted to the Zhao clan manor, where Shuji crossed the main gate with such speed that the guards didn't notice him. Moving swiftly, he positioned himself behind a man who briefly wondered if he had seen something. Before the man could react, Shuji killed him and dragged the body aside. As Shuji moved on, he overheard two women talking. The first lady mentioned how tight the security was that night. The second lady added that after the Black Dao sect had been wiped out overnight, it was only natural for security to be heightened. The first lady replied that it had nothing to do with them. Shuji continued walking, sensing other guards nearby. Using an iron spike, he stabbed one man in the leg. As the man bent down to pull the spike out, Shuji struck him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Then he jumped onto the roof of the building behind him. Inside, another man who was eating noticed that one of the guards was dead. He wondered aloud what the man had been doing sitting around while they hadn't even had a proper meal. Unbeknownst to man, Shuji had already poisoned his food. The man ate, but soon realized something was wrong when he saw the other guard hadn't moved. He rushed over to check on him, calling out to him, but the guard's body had already begun to react violently. Blood poured from his eyes, nose, and mouth. As the man collapsed, choking and dying, his body fell to the ground. Other members of the group arrived, noticing what had happened to the man. They speculated that he had been poisoned. A man quickly ordered to call the kitchen staff, shut the front gate, and ensure that no one got out. Shuji thought to himself that the security was still as skilled as ever, impressive, but not bad. He liked it. After checking his gear, he decided it was time for a visit, and the Zhao clan's name would be erased that very night. Inside, a man questioned whether it was really necessary to have guards on every floor just because of the Black Dao sect incident. 3 guards were stationed on one floor when Shuji entered, surprising them. They wondered whether he was an intruder or an assassin. But before they could react, Shuji swiftly slashed all 3 of them, killing them instantly. Shuji made his way upstairs. Meanwhile, people downstairs were talking, wondering if they had heard something from the lower floor. One guard saw Shuji and, thinking he was assigned to the 4th floor, asked what the noise was. He noted that the master had already gone to bed and told the others to keep it quiet. But when the guard looked closer, he realized that Shuji wasn't carrying a sword. He was holding a spear. He asked Shuji about it, and before the guard could react, Shuji charged, unleashing a powerful thrust to stab him and kill him swiftly. Other guards, hearing the commotion, wondered if it was an enemy attack or an assassin. Shuji stabbed another guard with the same spear, killing him as well. More guards rushed to attack, shouting that he was an intruder. One of them wondered aloud where Shuji had come from and what the other guards were doing. Why weren't they backing him up? Shuji then threw a series of iron objects towards the guards, each one striking their legs, causing them to fall to the ground. They all wondered if it was a trap and when Shuji had set it up. Without hesitation, Shuji moved in to finish them off, killing them one by one. As he did, Shuji heard a voice from behind, mentioning something about the noise coming from outside. Shuji recognized the terrifying internal power of the speaker, realizing that this person was on a completely different level compared to Yuhao. An old man appeared and stepped outside, addressing Shuji. He remarked that even though Shuji was uninvited, basic manners still applied. Shuji thought to himself that he had finally met this man, the one who had slaughtered countless people to protect his own life and cast Ayu into hell. The man asked what had brought Shuji there at such a late hour. Shuji, recognizing him, thought that this must be the leader of the Zhao clan manor, Zhao Yushi. Shuji called out the name Yushi and asked if it was really him. Yushi warned him to watch his tongue and asked where he had come from. He noted that Shuji didn't seem to belong to any of the righteous sects, the Valley of the Partition, or the Path of the Supremacy Society. Perhaps he was from beyond the Black Sand, he speculated. Shuji understood that Yushi's mind was usually twisted, if focused. This wouldn't be an easy fight for him. Shuji then mentioned the Tiger Pit sect. Yushi wondered aloud if Shuji had been raised by the master of the Tiger Pit sect, but quickly dismissed the idea as unbelievable. He couldn't imagine that man using a tiger like Shuji. He asked that what connection did he have with the Tiger Pit sect. Shuji casually replied that he was a guest, a servant warrior, or perhaps more like a stable hand. Yushi raised an eyebrow, questioning if Shuji ever gave anything away for free. Where he belonged doesn't matter. He had thrown himself into the den of a lion, and the proper way was to kill him without a word. With that, he drew his sword, asking Shuji if he agreed with that assessment. Shuji thought to himself that meeting Yushi alive felt surreal. Throughout his long life, Yushi had lived in peace. Aikyo had been forced to swallow her resentment, never able to take revenge with her own hands. But now life had changed, and Shuji would be the one to get revenge for Aiku. Shuji struck with his spear, clashing against Yushi's sword. Yushi sensed something off and stumbled back, asking if Shuji had used sorcery. He questioned why he could sense the Zhao clan's internal energy from Shuji. Shuji focused, summoning the spirits around him. He thought to himself that his spirit title was at the 9th level of the comparison stage, putting him on par with Yushi, a top-class master. But the deciding factor in this fight would be the difference in their experiences. A man living his second life versus a seasoned fighter. Yushi quickly recovered, slashing at Shuji, but Shuji expertly dodged every attack. Then Shuji rushed forward to strike, but Yushi blocked it, commenting that Shuji's move wasn't bad. However, he made it clear that it wouldn't be enough to defeat him. Yushi pushed Shuji back, pondering what his opponent would do next. He realized that Shuji would be in trouble if a burst of fire hit his eyes. Just as he thought this, a burst of fire struck Shuji's eyes, but Shuji, undeterred, lunged at Yushi with his spear. There was a cut across Yushi's neck, and Shuji's strike was scarier than Yushi had anticipated. Yushi's head nearly flew off, but it was also momentarily close to falling onto Shuji's body, with his insides barely holding together. Shuji recognized that Yushi's attacks had longer range and were the movements of a seasoned veteran. He knew finding an opening to win wouldn't be easy. Thinking quickly, Shuji launched a barrage of ranged weapons towards Yushi. Yushi quickly dodged the barrage of ranged weapons, realizing that Shuji was also skilled with them. In the meantime, Shuji threw a bone at Yushi, but he easily avoided it. Yushi commented that Shuji's tenacity was impressive, and he was now genuinely curious about the eccentric individual who had raised him. He added that if Shuji surrendered now, he would make him one of his retainers. Shuji sensed that Yushi was already preparing his next move behind those words. He watched as Yushi struck the floor and then rushed toward him. Shuji tried to block the attack, but his leg was struck by a corpse nearby, causing him to stumble and feel the impact. Yushi took advantage of the moment, stabbing his sword into Shuji's chest. He believed it was over, but to his surprise, Shuji didn't scream in pain. Yushi remarked that Shuji really had guts, a world apart from his own foolish son. He thought back to his son, who had been bedridden even from a small cut on his finger. Yushi mused that his son needed a strong wife, as he didn't know how many more years he had left. He just wanted to see his grandchild's face before it was too late. Shuji, still in the heat of battle, asked Yushi if he truly didn't know how many years he had left. Yushi was startled to realize that his sword wasn't moving properly. No matter how strong his grip was, holding a sword in such a way seemed almost impossible. He soon understood that Shuji had stopped the blade with his own strength, and he couldn't believe the madness of it. Shuji realized that this moment had been planned from the start. He had deliberately exposed a weak spot to bait Yushi into attacking, luring him in. Calmly, Shuji informed Yushi that he already knew how many years he had left to live. Without hesitation, Shuji thrust the bone into Yushi, intensifying the pressure. Yushi felt an overwhelming sense of dread, realizing that he needed to escape. Was he actually feeling fear? He heard the voices of spirits calling his name, their whispers haunting him. Panicking, Yushi tried to reach for his sword, attempting to create some distance between himself and Shuji. As he turned, he saw the evil spirits gathered behind Shuji. The sight of them and the sheer intensity of Shuji's presence filled him with terror. It was clear to Yushi now, Shuji was far more terrifying than he had imagined.